Good afternoon, everybody. Hope everyone's doing well. Thanks for taking the time to join us. We're going to get kicked off here. Vanessa's going to run us through a quick overview of the product, virtual demonstration, and then we're going to do some Q&A at the end. So feel free to turn off your mics or turn on your mics whenever you want to ask a question. Thank you.
All right, hi everybody. Thank you for hopping on and joining the webinar today. Thanks, Chris. So again, my name is Vanessa White. I'll be hosting this quick 20-minute session just to answer some of the most commonly asked questions about Fotokite for you. And maybe some of you are joining us today because you're simply curious about actively tethered drones, or you've done some research on Fotokite and maybe you still have some unanswered questions. This is definitely the webinar for you. So what I did is I listed the questions, and I'm going to dive into them a little bit more on this session, as you can see here. So just so you know, I will leave some time at the end of the session for any additional questions that you might have. So feel free to type them into the chat as we move along, and we'll address them afterward. Okay, so first question. So to kick things off, I want to answer our first question of what is, and is that it's an alternative solution to a drone. It's designed specifically for first responders to give them an eye in the sky without any complex rules, regulations, and training that traditional drones require. So for historical reference, over the past few decades, aerial technology or drones in public safety has grown a lot. And aerial awareness on scene has become such a game changer for many agencies, whether the department has them or not. But the problem is less than 1% of public safety personnel is actually trained and licensed to operate drones. So this highlights that while having a drone program is valuable, not every agency has the resources and the manpower to train and employ drone pilots. So this is making Fotokite just more of an ideal tool for real-time situational awareness that can be quickly deployed, flies autonomously, and for longer extended periods of time. And on to our second question is, what sets Fotokite apart from other drones? Now, just as a disclaimer, this is a comparison that's meant to highlight features and benefits so that you can make the best decision for what best suits your agency needs and use cases. So this is just a heads up, just something to consider as we move on together. Now, what makes Fotokite different? Our solution is categorized as an actively tethered UAS. And if you're not familiar, the FAA defines an actively tethered UAS as an unmanned aircraft system that's permanently attached to a ground station by a tether and provides constant power and control to the drone at all times. And this sounds a lot like a tethered drone, but the key phrase here is permanently attached. So Fotokite is different from a tethered drone because a lot of the actually all of the piloting systems and safety features are built in and can't be free flown. So it's taking the piloting aspect out of it completely. Now, compared to traditional drones, the difference is a bit of a wider gap. There's a lot more regulation and, of course, safety risks that go along with operating traditional drones. Also, Fotokite is not free flying or operating off of any batteries, which can be a limiting factor, but it all comes down to your priorities. But Fotokite serves as more of an all-in-one solution, while traditional drones may not be a viable option for you, or you're thinking about using this in conjunction with. It's nice to know that you can layer or you can use this as an all-in-one, especially if you're just getting into the drone space for your department. And now staying on this slide again for the next question, is Fotokite USA approved? And this is a hot topic right now. The good news is yes, Fotokite is USA approved. Now, what do I mean by saying that? Our systems are built and assembled in the United States. The major components are not produced in what the US labels as a country of concern, and our cameras are NDAA compliant. Now, for the sake of time for this webinar, I do have additional resources. If you want those specs and more information on this specifically, I'm more than happy to share that with you. I do have PDF document that I can send along. So just let me know if you would like to have that sent to you by email. Just put that in the chat so I know I can mark that for later for you. All right, now moving on to another question that we get asked a lot is how quickly can it be deployed? And this is a big one because, as you know, every second counts for first responders. And once you arrive on scene, it typically takes about 2 to 3 minutes from setup to in the air for a Fotokite system. And what I'm going to do now is I'm going to walk you through the setup quick start guide for our transport case and rooftop box configuration as an overview. It's on mute here. So first thing is you want to find a flat level surface that's free of obstructions and have a 15-foot radius. Then you unclasp all the metal latches and cover. Then after you plug in the power cord to your power source, you'll need about a minute or two for the boot up process. Then all you have to do is just give a quick look up, press the launch button on your app, and you're ready to go. And from there, you can adjust the camera, you can pan the camera view, you can activate a live stream, take photos, even record videos. Now, similar to the transport case, the rooftop box just needs to be free of obstructions with the vehicle still running. There's not much of a boot up process since it's continually in standby mode. But all you have to do is press launch. You adjust the camera as needed. But from there, you can adjust the height, the zoom in and out, activate the radiometrics. You can also choose from different color schemes on that thermal camera too as needed. And to land, all you do is press the land button. The clamshell will close automatically and remain in standby mode until your next flight. So that's pretty much it. That's that's it. There you go. It's a quick overview. So very simple, 2 to 3 minutes. You can fly this for a longer duration of time, which is nice. You don't need to have one person designated to piloting and overwatch of this at all times. Another big benefit. All right, so we're cruising along here. Let me get you to our last question. So we get asked this a lot about how that's being used in public safety. It's made for first responders, but who's actually using it? What are the use cases? And the great thing about this system is that it gives you 100% operational freedom. Anybody in your agency can use this. So really the use cases are endless, but to scale it back to our most popular applications, fire response, law enforcement, they use this mostly for critical incident response, traffic management, Overwatch, and security. Just to name a few of those more popular use cases. Since Fotokite is so versatile, when it comes to who can operate it and where, if you really think of a scenario where you needed Overwatch on a scene from 1 minute to multiple hours or even days at a time, Fotokite can fit that need. All right, so I cruised through those questions. That's a wrap on my side, and I'm eager to hear your questions. So just give us a second to check the chat. If you have any additional questions or you can think of anything now, go ahead and drop that in the chat section for me.
So we have, can the camera system be upgraded, changed? Example, better cameras, upgrading camera a few years down the road.
Yeah, that's a really good question. We're always working on getting better camera quality as they are released. So the next one that we're going to be releasing will be a thermal camera, and that is in the near future.
Yeah, now I did that in the past. We had a what we called the SIGCAM 1. It's kind of our earlier generation cameras. We had some customers that wanted to upgrade with the with their what we call a SIGCAM 2, which is a considerable upgrade in camera quality, zoom capabilities, and we were easily able to swap out that hardware, no problem. Next question is it possible to move forward with the vehicle if Fotokite is deployed?
The answer is yes. It can be slow movements, but if you're planning on driving down a freeway, probably not. So, but if you do need to maneuver your vehicle at a slow rate of speed, then it should be fine. And if there is any detection of movement, the system will actually come back down to the ground station automatically. So that saves you from running into any problems with running into obstructions that are up above. It's a safety feature that we have built in. So the answer is yes.
And then we have, can we talk a little bit about weather resistance?
Oh yeah, that's another good question. So weather resistance, it is IP55 weather rated. So that means that it's weather resistant. It can operate in rain, heavy rains actually, snow, sleet conditions, continuously while it's in flight. The wind restrictions, our system is rated for 28 miles per hour, and at its max height of 150 feet that can deploy, it can sustain wind gusts that are around the 40-mile-per-hour range. So it's pretty standard to your typical drone specifications, I would say. I wouldn't say that it's anything beyond that, but the tether definitely gives it that extra security.
Yeah, but one thing I'll say is just with personal experience with this system is I always say it's a very tough machine, but very simple and very simple to use. I've had it at I was actually with Summit Fire in EMS which is by Breckenridge in Colorado at about 9,000 over 9,000 feet. And we had 30+ mile an hour sustained wind. So it wasn't gusts, it was just constant wind. So it was, and it was flying. So that's just an example of one of the more extreme conditions. It's the gusts that can sometimes cause the kite to go into emergency stop mode. So it'll just tell you, hey, there's too much wind. And the max height of our product is 150 feet. So, you could have completely different wind speed at 150 feet versus 50 feet or at ground level. So sometimes when you're at full max height and there is that high wind speed, the kite will actually descend down to a lower altitude where it has control. And if it's still too high, then it'll automatically land. So it kind of leaves the guesswork out. The operator doesn't have to really think about that kind of a thing. That also includes if there's a lot of rain or too much snow. So if you got like monsoon kind of rain, it'll also detect that and will land automatically. But it is designed to withstand those elements. And on the other end of the spectrum, Phoenix Fire, for example, they use our product. So that's probably the best example of high heat. As far as cold goes, I actually had flown this in north of Edmonton, Canada at it was -30 degrees Fahrenheit. It was freezing and it was flying. But there are limitations, of course, but I just want to illustrate that it is quite a robust machine.
Thanks,
So
Chris.
we have another good question here, Vanessa. Is there a way to stream the video to another system, say to a traffic management center to help support total incident response?
Yes, another good question. Fotokite is very easily integrated into other systems. So that live stream can be, so since it's web-based and it's cloud-based, so you have a meeting room connect that you can use to stream this into monitors. You can also have this integrated into other software programs that you are using. It just depends on what you have, but it's very easily integratable.
Great. So another question was, what's the max height? I think we said it's 150 feet. And I'll just say that there's a reason for that is one of the biggest advantages of an actively tethered UAS system. So actively tethered is a recognized classification of UAS systems, recognized by the FAA. One of those big things, there was a reauthorization that occurred on May 16th of this year that essentially allows any public safety operator in an emergency or life-threatening situation to fly this in zero grid airspace. So that means that you don't need a COA certificate of operation. You don't need permission from ATC. You just have to notify ATC when and where you're deploying, and that's it. So it gives you huge flexibility in that type of a emergency situation. So again, there's no other system that has that flexibility and capability. And again, any public safety operator, volunteer, that includes the volunteer departments, you can operate this without a Part 107 credential. So that's huge flexibility and freedom there. We have another great question from Tom. It is, what are the limits on wind and precipitation that the system can be deployed?
Yeah, I think we've
Yeah,
already
covered that a little
addressed
bit.
that. And the same thing with we have another question about heat resistance. So
Mhm.
we've addressed those both, unless there's something else you want to add, Chris.
No, yeah, I think we covered that. If there's any clarification we want on wind limitations or precipitation, just let us know. We'll be happy to expound on that. The question is, what about heat resistance or flame resistance? What will be the temperature limits?
And so
Yeah.
again, it's the system is rated for a specific temperature for heat, yes, but used within certain parameters, as Chris mentioned. We have agencies that are in extreme heat conditions that see over 100 degrees regularly, and they operate Fotokite. But it is rated for the limiting factor is the batteries and the camera heat, and that's for any drone or camera that you put out, whether that be your cell phone or that be another drone capability. At 104 to 114 degrees, that's where the limiting factor is going to come into play. If you have this up for just a few moments of time, it'll be fine. But if you plan on having this out in 114-degree day for multiple hours at a time at the highest that the sun is going, then it's probably going to give you that heat warning and come down on its own.
Mm-hmm. That's right. So we have another great question. It is, can it be flown in a no-fly zone, like for around Washington, D.C., for example?
Yeah, and another great question that gets asked a lot, and Chris, you touched on this lightly. We do have the capability to fly Fotokite in a no-fly zone, and this goes with flying this in the parameters of public safety, using this below 150 feet, and also being able to use this for emergency response use. So public safety is really within that realm. So you can use this for critical incident response, event overwatch. The new reauthorization that came out that Chris mentioned on May 6th, I believe, it
Yeah,
states
that's right.
that within those, if it's being used within those parameters, then yes, you can use this in zero grid airspace in no fly zones. And I believe that's it for our questions. If anyone else has anything that they'd like to add real quick, we'll give you just another moment. And I just want to add again, if you do want to have additional resources sent to you, we can send you the information. Just to give you a quick recap on everything that we've kind of covered today, and additional things relating to the USA approval. What Chris mentioned, we can send you the Reauthorization Act information, and I can also send you the short video as well. So if you have
Yep.
any further questions or you need more clarification on that, we're happy to help.
Yep. And then I just, if you guys want to just ask a question, it did make it to where you can unmute your microphones if that's easier. We'll just wait about 30 seconds for that.
Okay, well then, if that's it, then great. I know we've covered a lot today, and I hope you found this Q&A helpful. And as Chris mentioned, if you have any other further questions, you will be receiving an email from us with those additional resources and our contact information. Feel free to reach out. We'd love to hear from you, and you know what agency you're at, where you could see a use for Fotokite, and we're also happy to help with any demonstrations for your agency, virtual and on-site. So if you're interested in that, just make sure you ask that as well when we send you that email.
Yep. Yeah, we'll include that reauthorization information. Someone asks for that info. So
Well, thank you all again. Stay safe, everybody.
take care.